Hello, and welcome to Framingham Now. I'm Jack Patrick Lewis, State Representative for the 7th Middlesex District, which includes the entire town of Ashland, most of South Framingham, and some of North Framingham. Since we're going to be talking about precincts and districts today, here in Framingham I represent precincts 8, 13, 14, 16, 17, and 18 on Beacon Hill. On this program we talk with elected officials, community leaders, and area activists about the current political landscape in Framingham and the future of the town that many of us call home. We have an election just around the corner, and on today's show I will be interviewing the two candidates running to be the City Councilor for District 5, which includes precincts 8 and 12. Today as my guests I have Robert Case and Dennis Giambetti. Robert, thank you so much for being my first guest today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you on the show. You've been out in the community as a town meeting member, and I know your neighbors have been getting to know you over the course of the campaign, but definitely before the campaign as well. But for those folks tuning in at home or online, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
Well, my name is Robert Case. I live on Hastings Street in Precinct 8. I am a father of 3 adopted children. We're in the process to adopt the last one now, to finalize on that. I've been married for almost 11 years now, so a long time. And then I've also have an extensive background of almost 11 years as well in the financial industry as far as data and performance analyst. And that's kind of where my wheelhouse of experience is. Why I'm running is, the short answer is because I care. I care for Framingham. I care for the district, the people in my neighborhoods, my neighbors, and I'm also concerned as well. I think we need to make sure that as we go through this historic transition, that we need to make sure that we're not settling back and going into the deeply rooted politics as usual. We have a chance here to have a new city, and we need some new leaders with new ideas to help focus on the future. And I think that I have the right set of skills to take us through the transition and beyond.
Excellent. And so you are running to be the District 5 City Councilor, which Correct. Encompasses precincts 8 and 12. And so for folks tuning in at home, I just like to keep reminding folks that if you were in Precinct 8 yesterday, you're still in Precinct 8. The precincts are still around. You're now also in a district. So there's just one more number to remember, just to confuse us forever. District 5, but Precinct 8 or 12 in your case. And Precinct 8 for voting, can you remind people where they vote?
That is at the Wesley United Methodist Church in the Fellowship Hall around the back of the
Excellent.
building.
And then if you're in the Precinct 12 side of things, it's the Memorial Building.
That is correct.
And that election's just coming up around the corner. Yeah. So you alluded to a couple issues, but if you could talk about maybe 2 or 3 of the things that you're most excited about working on if you're elected here on November 7th.
Well, I think one of the things that's obviously important to me and important to a lot of people in my district are schools. Obviously, the school committee will have the responsibility for policy making and running the school system, but it's going to be up to the city councilors to make sure that there's adequate funding, that the school committee and our superintendent have the means necessary to make those decisions that need to be made for our kids. They are the future of Framingham, and it's important that we make sure that they have the right tools, they have the best education that we can possibly give them, and that they're succeeding as they go to school every day. I think the other thing that is important to me is I want to really take a look at our tax structure in town. I think it's something that needs to be looked at. Kind of going hand in hand with that, as well as looking at property taxes, is looking at our budget as well. But I think we need to make sure that we can find a way to stabilize property taxes for residents. Property taxes have continuously gone up year over year, and I think that that's something we need to take a look at. But we also need to think creatively about how to expand our tax base. We have one of the highest corporate tax rates in the state. And I think that that's something we need to take a hard look at and have those hard, difficult discussions to make sure that we set up Framingham for growth and continued growth throughout the future. So that's also important to me.
Excellent. And One of the things I'm most excited about with this new form of government is that you're going to be, if you're elected, one of 11 city councilors, but you're going to be specifically tasked with representing 1/9 of town,
Right.
A section of town, actually right, it's almost in the middle,
Right.
precincts 8 and 12. And so I'm curious what you think that will mean for you to represent, to advocate for that neighborhood. Are there unique needs? This is the neighborhood I live in as well, so I have a vested interest in making sure we're well represented. But as you look around, as you knock on doors, are there issues you think that are unique to District 5 that you're going to be specifically working for that maybe are different than far north Framingham or far south Framingham?
Sure. Well, one of the things that we have going on in District 5 is obviously we have the Mount Wait Shopping Center. That's very important to the people in Precinct 12 in particular because they kind of surround it on two sides. And it's something that, there's a deal on the table right now. There's also a lawsuit ongoing. So it remains to be seen kind of how that's going to move forward. So that's something that I definitely want to keep an eye on. I've been going to the ZBA meetings, the planning board meetings, and things of that nature. So I think it's something that, as a city as a whole, because we actually have several of these properties throughout the city, that we keep an eye on them and we find a way to move forward that is a win for residents and the city as a whole. So that's something that I want to keep an eye on and advocate for. The other thing I think that is unique, we have the Callahan Senior Center in our district. And I think that that's something that we should be very proud to have. I think they do some great work there, but I think we can do better. I think we need to advocate for increased programming. I think we need to advocate for dedicated transportation for seniors to get them to them, because if we have the greatest programs, if they don't have access to these programs and they can't get to the programs, then it kind of defeats the purpose. One of the things that I've heard from several people going around the district and knocking on doors, people that may have elderly parents living with them or things like that, is that they have an issue with finding healthy meals for their parents or grandparents or whatever the case may be. So that's something I think that we should look at, making the Callahan a better increased daily food stop for seniors. It gets them out, keeps them active, keeps them involved in the community. I think the other thing with the Callahan is we can do better getting out the word about the programs that we currently have, such as tax relief for seniors. And I think that that's something that we need to do a better job about. I think that we can advocate in such a way that we can go to our State House delegation and find ways to work with you and to kind of increase that relief for seniors. I think there's several ways that we can do that. We can look at property taxes based on the sliding income scale, and we can look at a cap on taxes for seniors. There's several options that we can look at, and I'm looking forward to hopefully having those conversations. I think the other thing that's important and unique to District 5 right now is we are about to go into the building process to replace Fuller Middle School, which is in Precinct 8. And I think that that's something that's a big deal for Framingham. It's the first new school in a long time. But I think we need to make sure that we build it right the first time. So my job as a city councilor, and I've already been doing this, is encouraging people to get involved in the conversation. The school system's getting ready to have a series of 3 conversations with the public to get feedback and input into that building. And I think we need to make sure that it's designed well, it's built correctly the first time. May have to spend a little more money up front, which nobody likes to hear, but I think the cost savings down the road, if we can make this a building that is a net zero energy efficient building, if not an energy producer to put power back into the grid, I think it will only reap benefits well into the future for the district and the city as a whole. And
those are decisions that have to be made before we go too far down that road. And
exactly.
They can be difficult decisions that involve some additional upfront costs.
Right.
So on the subject of seniors, I was at the Callahan Center earlier, actually just a couple hours back, and talking to folks, and a great number of them told me, make sure you talk to those people running for mayor and city council, that what it would mean to have a specific person in the new government, a senior affairs officer, or somebody who is tasked as an employee with making sure that the seniors are considered in every decision being made. So since you brought them up, I thought I'd do a plug to channel that thought from the center from earlier today. anything that can be done to make sure that decisions that are being made, we have to remember the young families, we have to remember the seniors, we have to remember everyone in between, small business, large businesses, businesses moving into town. But one of their major hopes was that we will think creatively about how we can make sure that there's somebody in the building who's tasked with making sure that issues that touch seniors, which if we're fortunate, we will all be seniors one day,
Right.
That they touch all of us in one way or another. So grateful you were able to talk about that and to talk about how rich District 5 is when it comes to the diversity, the richness of diversity, but also the schools, the programs. I'm honored to live in the district with you and Dennis Giambetti, who's also running for this position. Our time together always goes by faster than I ever imagined. In closing, I'd like to ask everybody, what is it about Framingham? We have chosen to live here, but we have also, you're putting yourself out there to run to be the first city councilor to represent District 5. And so I believe that there has to be something not only about you and people like you that are running, but something about the town itself that makes it the kind of place that you're working so hard to advocate for. So What is it about our town?
It's the people. When I chose to move to Framingham 6 years ago, it was with the full intention that we wanted to raise a family, and we knew we were going to be adopting children. And it was something about, just as you said, the diversity of the people here, the quality of life that the people here have was very attractive. And it's something that I've been able to focus on as the chair of Precinct 8 in town meeting. It's been able to be a focus of mine as I've sat on the Ways and Means Committee and looked at the financial aspects of the town. And it's something that has drawn a number of people to the town. You have the younger families, you have the senior citizens, and like you said, you have everything in between. And you have different nationalities and things, different socioeconomic backgrounds. And that it was the type of neighborhood and the type of city that I wanted to raise my kids in, because I believe that's important, because as we continue to go forward, the world is becoming more of a global space. And I think that's important for children to experience. I think it's important for everyone to experience and to embrace that diversity just to make us a stronger human race.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much, Robert, for coming on the show. Best of luck over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
And for those at home, I hope you will stay tuned. We'll have Dennis Giambetti on here in a couple minutes. Thank you.